Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Kev's Movie Corner. I am Kev, and this week we are talking about... What are we talking about? We're talking about The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. This movie was released in 2015. It is Part 2. It's the second installment of the last book of the Hunger Games franchise. So this is basically the end of the movies, the original movies. There was a prequel that came out in 2023, I believe. So 8 years after this ended, or after this one came out. The brief little summary from IMDb is: Katniss and a team of rebels from District 13 prepare for the final battle that will decide the fate of Panem. This doesn't really introduce... No, I don't think you really get any new characters. Not any big characters, I don't believe, in this, because you've met pretty much all of them in part one of this, like the film crew and stuff like that are helping with the propaganda videos. So this kind of starts out back in District 13. She's, just been attacked by Peeta after learning that he's been brainwashed. They hijacked is what they call it, to try to kill her by the Capitol. She's still trying to recover from that. She ends up being sent to, or she wants to go to the Capitol, but to fight, they won't. The President Coin, won't let her. The president of District 13 won't let her go to the Capitol because that's the front lines, and she doesn't want her to die there, basically. So they send her to District 2 to help take that area, which she doesn't like, what's going on. She doesn't like that they're possibly killing innocent people in the whole fighting, because, that's not what they're about. That's what the Capitol does. That's what her argument. But anyway, they end up taking District 2. She gets injured in the process and goes back to get to heal. Goes back to District 13. And then again wants to go to the Capitol. She gets told again no. So she sneaks to the Capitol on a medical supply shipment. She sneaks to the Capitol. She ends up being joined there by a special task force, whatever you want to call it, headed by Boggs, who is the head of security for District 13, and some other elite members who are going to supposedly make propaganda videos and other stuff. So they're not going to be on the front lines, but they're still going to have to deal with all the booby traps in the Capitol, which have been set up by game makers to basically make the rebels die in horrible fashions as they're making their way into the Capitol. So, as this is going on, they kind of you kind of follow them into the Capitol. They end up sending Peeta in as well, while they're trying to still unhijack him. He does have a relapse and tries to kill Katniss again, which is ends up with somebody else. I guess it kind of ends up with 3 other people dying in total. Um, people keep dying as they're trying to make it through because it's, obviously there's a bunch of things going on. They're trying to make it through all these booby traps and everything else, but eventually they do make it to closer to the center of the Capitol, where President Snow orders or tells all the residents to come to the presidential palace to get refuge from the rebels, and ends up bombing or setting off a bomb, and pushing more people forward, and then another bomb goes off and kills even more children and other people, including Katniss's little sister Prim, and everybody ends up, it knocks Katniss out, but she learns after she wakes up that everybody turned against the Capitol, and it was basically over at that point. So that's where the fighting basically ends. Katniss is obviously knocked out for that, but she learns that it's basically over. She goes and actually talks to Snow after this happens. She's walking around the Capitol, or the presidential palace, and she goes and talks to him, and he mentions about how Coin is not what she seems. President Coin is not what she seems, and is basically the same thing that he is, just trying to take power in any way that she can, and that she actually set up the bombing to make it look like the Capitol was bombing its own people, which is a sinister way to beat your opponent, is make people think that they're attacking their own people. But Katniss and the other victors are called to a meeting with Coin. President Coin, who declares herself president instead of calling for an election, which is crazy after everything that's happened. And she says that there's going to be more Hunger Games, which causes outrage among a bunch of people. And several of them vote. They all vote. Several of them vote no. Katniss agrees as long as she gets to kill Snow. And when it comes to the execution, she kills Coin instead. Snow gets killed by a mob of people, and she ends up being arrested and eventually gets basically sent back to her home with Peeta and lives out their days. And you kind of cut to the end, and it's her and him several years later with their kids. So that's basically the whole movie. It's, it has a nice ending. She survives. Peeta survives. You hear kind of like how everybody's doing in a letter from Annie and Finnick, or Annie, which I guess Finnick actually dies in the fight in the Capitol, but it is a sad. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of death in this. It is a sad. These movies, kind of like the Harry Potter ones, I think me and Nikki talked about this. They got a lot darker as they went along, which, I mean, makes sense. It's already a dark film franchise. It's about a dystopian future. But anyway, there was a couple of interesting things that I found on this. This was actually the second lowest of the four main films. This was the lowest grossing. The only one that got lower was the prequel that came out. So this movie did not do really well at the box office. Although it did do okay critically. Most critics praised the action sequences and things like that. So it did okay. but it didn't do nearly as well as the earlier movies did. Um, I still enjoyed it. Like it's I still enjoy this movie. It's still fun to watch. Um, because it is a lot more action than some of the other ones. I feel like. I don't know. The first one takes a long time to get into the actual like arena and the actual fighting. This one is a lot of action the whole time. But um, a couple things that I found were interesting about this. The final scene in the Hunger Games in Mockingjay Part 1, which came out in 2014, so a year earlier. Katniss wakes up to learn that Peeta's been hijacked. Um, after he knocked her out, or after he tried to kill her, and basically she she passed out. Um, so that was apparently supposed to be the end of that movie, like where he gets knocked out was supposed to be the end of that movie. She wasn't supposed to wake up until the start of this movie, but the writers decided that was too much of a cliffhanger, so they shifted it all a little bit so that they wouldn't be as much in the dark, which I thought was interesting. They wanted a cliffhanger, but not that much of a cliffhanger, so that's interesting. Um, the visual effects apparently on this last one were so intense, and so like there was so much to them that they had to start making teams had to start working on them before they finished or before Mockingjay Part 1 was released. So they actually started really early, apparently, on these. Um, the This was Seymour Hoffman's final film role. He completed almost everything but two scenes when he died. Um, one of those was the last scene, uh, one of the final scenes, like the final two scenes, um, where Woody Harrelson or Haymitch is reading a letter from Plutarch to Katniss. Originally, Plutarch was supposed to be there talking to her in person, um, but Hoffman had already died before they had gotten a chance to film that scene, so they changed it around to where Haymitch is reading a letter to her. And the last scene was shot almost a year after they finished filming the movie. Um, the final scene where it's like Katniss and Peeta with their kids after years, like supposed to be a lot of time after the actual, Hunger Games and everybody died and everything else. Because the weather was so bad that they couldn't film it in Atlanta where they were at the time. So they just waited till they had better weather to film the scene how they wanted it. Um, and Jennifer Lawrence accidentally revealed that it was her nephews that were playing their kids in that scene, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, that's that's. I just thought those were kind of interesting little facts, little tidbits about these. I just think some of the facts that you can find on the trivia section on here are fun. Um, this was the fourth rated movie. This actually got the same rating on Rotten Tomatoes as Mockingjay Part 1. They both have a 70. So, um, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why they put this below it. They both have a 70, is what it says here. Um, so Catching Fire is number 1, which is actually film number 2. The Hunger, the Hunger Games the original one has an 84 on Rotten Tomatoes, and then you have Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 that are tied, basically. So I don't know if they just put them in order because that's when they came out or what, but they're basically tied, which for 3 and 4, which tells you what the last one, the lowest score is. But yeah, so 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's got a 6.5 on IMDb. So viewers tend to like it, I guess. I enjoyed it. I think it's fun to watch. It is a lot of action. You know, it's... I've seen it a few times. I wouldn't say it's something that I constantly go back to, but every once in a while I'll watch it, and it's always enjoyable when I do. So I don't know. Take what you will out of that. But anyway, I think that's it for this week, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and next week we will wrap up the Hunger Games with the prequel to these books, the movies. I don't know if there's another book or not, but anyway, we'll wrap up with the prequel, what is it? The Song of, or the something, I don't remember, the Song of Songbirds and Snakes or something like that. I don't remember. We're going to talk about that one next week.